She died on a Tuesday, November 14, 2017. A suburban house in Charlotte, North Carolina. 2 children asleep upstairs. A husband calling 911 at 2:47 a.m. My wife is vomiting. She can't breathe. Please hurry. Paramedics arrived 7 minutes later. Found her on the bathroom floor. Foam at her mouth. Eyes wide open. Pulse fading. They worked on her for 23 minutes. In the ambulance. On the way to the hospital. She was pronounced dead at 3:38 a.m. Cause of death: acute gastrointestinal distress, severe dehydration, cardiac arrest. The medical examiner signed the death certificate. The funeral was 3 days later. Her husband wept at the grave. Her children held his hands. The neighbors brought casseroles. Everyone said the same thing. What a tragedy. She was so young, so healthy, so full of life. But her mother wasn't buying it. Something about the way her son-in-law cried. Something about the life insurance policy. Something about the glass of wine he'd poured her the night before. Something her daughter had whispered on the phone 6 weeks earlier. "Mom, if anything happens to me, look at Dan." Those words would unravel a conspiracy. A poison that leaves no trace. A husband who loved his wife, but loved $250,000 more. This is the story of Melissa Harper, the woman who knew she was dying, and the man who made sure she did. Melissa Harper was 34 years old when she died. Born in Raleigh, North Carolina. Oldest of 3 daughters. The responsible one. The caretaker. The girl who brought home stray animals and nursed them back to health. She became a nurse. Of course she did. It was who she was. Compassion wrapped in scrubs. Moving through hospital corridors with a quiet confidence of someone who'd seen the worst and still believed in the best. In 2009, she met Dan Harper, a pharmaceutical sales representative. Handsome, charming, the kind of man who remembered birthdays and brought flowers for no reason. They married in 2011. Her parents cried. Her sisters smiled. Everyone agreed. Melissa deserved someone who adored her. The children came quickly. A boy, then a girl. A suburban house with a backyard swing set. A dog named Bailey. A life that looked like a catalog. But catalogs don't show everything. Behind the white picket fence, something was rotting. Dan Harper had a gambling problem. Not the kind that makes you lose a few $100s at poker night. The kind that makes you lose $40,000 in a weekend. The kind that makes you borrow from friends who stop being friends. The kind that makes you look at your wife's life insurance policy and see not protection for your children, but a payout. Melissa didn't know about the gambling. Not at first. She knew about the late nights. The long business trips. The credit card statements she wasn't supposed to see. But she trusted him. She loved him. She believed that love could fix anything. She was wrong. In 2016, she found the credit card bills. $30,000 in debt she didn't know existed. She confronted him. He cried. Promised to change. Promised to get help. Promised he'd never lie to her again. She believed him. By January 2017, the debt was $70,000. The gambling was worse. The lies were deeper. And Dan Harper had started researching something on his work computer. Something he thought no one would notice. Antifreeze poisoning. Ethylene glycol. Symptoms. Detection. Treatment. He was very careful. He used incognito mode. He cleared his history. He didn't know his wife had installed a parental monitoring app on the family computer. For the children. To keep them safe. She saw the searches. And she said nothing. Instead, she called her mother. "Mom, if anything happens to me, look at Dan." Her mother asked what she meant. Melissa said nothing. Her mother asked if she was in danger. Melissa said nothing. But 6 weeks later, on a cold November night, Dan Harper poured his wife a glass of wine. He told her it was a new vintage. Something special he'd picked up on a business trip. He watched her drink it. Watched her smile. Watched her kiss him goodnight. He watched her start vomiting at 1 a.m. Watched her stumble to the bathroom. Watched her collapse on the floor. He waited 47 minutes to call 911. The poison was called ethylene glycol. Antifreeze. Sweet. Colorless. Odorless. Deadly. Takes about 100 milliliters to kill an adult. That's less than half a cup. Mix it into wine, and you won't taste a thing. Once ingested, the body metabolizes it into toxic acids that attack the central nervous system, the kidneys, the lungs. Symptoms mimic alcohol intoxication. Nausea, vomiting, dizziness, confusion, then coma, then death. If treated within hours, the patient can survive. A simple antidote, fomepizole, or even ethanol, yes, alcohol, can slow the metabolism of ethylene glycol long enough for the kidneys to process it. But treatment only works if the poison is identified. And ethylene glycol is notoriously difficult to detect. Standard toxicology screens don't test for it. Doctors have to know to look, have to suspect, have to ask the right questions. Dan Harper made sure no one asked the right questions. At 1 a.m., Melissa woke up nauseous. He told her it was food poisoning, something she ate at lunch. She should try to sleep it off. At 1:30 a.m., she was vomiting. He told her to drink water, stay hydrated. At 2 a.m., she was confused, disoriented. He told her to lie down, rest. At 2:30 a.m., she couldn't stand. He told her she was overreacting. At 2:47 a.m., she stopped breathing. He called 911. The paramedics asked what happened. He said she'd been vomiting for hours. Maybe the flu. Maybe food poisoning. They asked if she'd been drinking. He said a glass of wine. Hours ago. They didn't ask about antifreeze. Why would they? At the hospital, doctors diagnosed acute gastroenteritis, severe dehydration. She was given fluids. She was given something for nausea. She was given comfort. She was not given the antidote she needed to live, because no one knew to give it. At 3:38 a.m., Melissa Harper was pronounced dead. Cause of death: complications from gastrointestinal illness. The medical examiner signed the death certificate without a second thought. No autopsy was performed. No toxicology screen for ethylene glycol. No investigation. Dan Harper collected his wife's life insurance check 6 weeks later. $250,000. He paid off his gambling debts. He bought a new car. He started dating again. And he thought he'd gotten away with it. Diane Morrison buried her daughter on a cold November morning. She watched her son-in-law weep at the grave. She watched her grandchildren cling to his legs. She watched the casserole dishes pile up on the kitchen counter. And she watched. Something was wrong. She couldn't name it, couldn't prove it, but she knew her daughter. She knew the fear in Melissa's voice on that last phone call. She knew her daughter wouldn't say, "Look at Dan," without a reason. So she started looking. She requested Melissa's medical records. The hospital sent them reluctantly. She read every page. The paramedic report, the ER notes, the doctor's final assessment. Nothing suspicious. Nothing except a line in the paramedic's narrative that made her pause. Patient's husband reports she consumed 1 glass of wine approximately 4 hours prior to symptom onset. Husband delayed calling 911 approximately 90 minutes after patient became unresponsive. 90 minutes. Her daughter had been unconscious for 90 minutes before anyone called for help. Diane called the hospital. Asked if they'd tested for poison. The records department said no. She asked if they'd done an autopsy. They said no. She called the medical examiner's office. Asked if they'd considered foul play. They said there was no evidence. She called the police department. Asked if anyone had investigated. They said no. Everyone said no. So Diane Morrison did what no one else would do. She hired a private investigator. A former FBI agent who specialized in suspicious deaths. His name was Tom Reynolds. He'd seen cases like this before. Husbands who killed wives. Wives who killed husbands. People who thought they could get away with murder because no one was looking. He told Diane the truth. Without an autopsy, without toxicology, it would be nearly impossible to prove anything. But he also told her something else. Something that gave her hope. Your daughter was a nurse. She knew her body. If she told you she was afraid, she had a reason. Let's find it. For 6 months, Tom Reynolds investigated. He interviewed neighbors. He checked financial records. He found the gambling debts, the credit card statements. The life insurance policy Dan Harper had increased 6 months before Melissa's death. He found the computer searches, the incognito history, the words ethylene glycol and antifreeze poisoning, and how long to die. And he found the wine bottle. It was still in the recycling bin at the Harper house. Dan Harper hadn't thought to throw it out. Why would he? No one was investigating. Tom Reynolds took the bottle, sent it to a private lab, asked them to test for ethylene glycol. The lab called back 3 weeks later. Positive. Traces of ethylene glycol found in the wine residue. Enough to kill a person. Enough to convict a murderer. On June 14, 2018, Dan Harper was arrested at his home. In front of his children. In front of the new woman he'd been dating. In front of the neighbors who still brought casseroles. He was charged with first-degree murder. He laughed when they read him his rights. Laugh. You don't have anything, he said. I didn't do anything. She died of the flu. The detective slid a photograph across the table. The wine bottle. The lab report. The positive result for ethylene glycol. Dan Harper stopped laughing. For the next 4 hours, detectives interviewed him. He denied everything. He claimed the wine must have been contaminated. He claimed he didn't know anything about antifreeze. He claimed his wife's death was a tragic accident. Then the detective mentioned the computer searches. The incognito history. The words Dan thought he'd erased. Tell me about the ethylene glycol, Dan. He sat in silence for 23 minutes. The tape recorder kept rolling. The detectives waited. Finally he spoke. I didn't mean to kill her. Those 6 words changed everything. He confessed. Over the next 3 hours, he told them everything. The gambling. The debt. The life insurance policy. The night he poured the antifreeze into her wine. The 47 minutes he waited to call 911. He said he thought she'd just get sick. He didn't know it would kill her. He didn't mean for her to die. He just wanted her out of the way. Just for a while. Just until he could figure things out. The detectives didn't believe him. The prosecutor wouldn't believe him. The jury wouldn't believe him. He meant to kill her. He'd planned it for months. He'd researched the poison. He'd increased the life insurance. He'd waited until her guard was down. He'd watched her drink the wine. He'd watched her die. And he'd watched her mother fight for justice while he cashed the check. Dan Harper's trial lasted 11 days. The prosecution presented the wine bottle, the lab results, the computer searches, the life insurance policy, the 47-minute delay. The defense argued that Dan Harper was a grieving husband unfairly targeted by a suspicious mother-in-law. They said the wine was contaminated by accident. They said the computer searches were research for a novel he was writing. They said the delayed 911 call was panic, not calculation. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They came back with a verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced Dan Harper to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Before sentencing, Diane Morrison stood before the court. She held a photograph of her daughter. Her voice didn't shake. Melissa trusted you, she said. She loved you. She gave you 2 beautiful children. And you killed her for $250,000. You killed her because you couldn't stop gambling. You killed her because she was inconvenient. You killed her because you thought no one would find out. She looked at him. For the first time since the trial began, he looked back. But we found out, she said. Her mother found out. And every day for the rest of your life, you will wake up knowing that she knew. She knew before she died. She told me. Look at Dan. And I did. Dan Harper was led from the courtroom in handcuffs. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just walked. The life insurance money was recovered from his accounts. It went to Melissa's children, to be held in trust until they turn 18. Diane Morrison raised them. She told them stories about their mother. She taught them that love doesn't require you to look away, that justice is possible, that even when the world says there's nothing to see, sometimes there's everything to see. Melissa Harper's story is not just about a husband who killed his wife for money. It's about a woman who knew she was dying and tried to warn her mother. It's about a mother who refused to accept a closed case. It's about justice that came late, but came. Her story holds lessons for all of us. Lesson 1. Trust what you know. Melissa knew something was wrong. She saw the searches. She felt the change in her husband. She told her mother to look at him if anything happened. She knew. And she still drank the wine. We tell ourselves we're being paranoid. We tell ourselves we're overreacting. We tell ourselves that the people we love wouldn't hurt us. But our bodies know. Our instincts know. Listen to them. Lesson 2. Look at the money. Financial pressure is the most common motive for domestic homicide. Gambling. Life insurance. When a partner's behavior changes and money is involved, pay attention. It's not romantic to ignore it. It's dangerous. Lesson 3. A delayed 911 call is a crime. If someone you love is dying and you wait to call for help, that is not grief. That is not shock. That is a decision. 47 minutes is a choice. Every minute is a choice. Ask the question, why did you wait? Lesson 4. Autopsies matter. If Melissa Harper's body had been examined, the poison would have been found. The cause of death would have been identified. The investigation would have begun immediately. If you lose someone you love unexpectedly, especially if the circumstances are suspicious, request an autopsy. It's the only way to be sure. Lesson 5. You are not powerless. Diane Morrison was a grandmother with no legal training, no investigative experience, no authority. She had a daughter who was dead and a system that said there was nothing to investigate. She didn't accept that. She didn't stop. She didn't let her daughter become a closed file. If you believe something is wrong, keep asking. Keep looking. Keep fighting. Justice may not come quickly, but it can come. Hit the subscribe button for more chilling stories.